Welcome back to our 32 for 32 NFL preview. This is the Goal Line Stand. I am Michael Lipinski, joined as always by Brett Halpern, and we are traversing the New York State Thruway. What's that, 90, right? Is that it, I think? We're taking 90 up to Buffalo?
Well, depends how you get there.
On the road.
Are you taking the Thruway? Well, why are you taking what did you want to go?
I don't remember. I've been there like once. I drove through going to Toronto. I don't know.
I guess you could go that. I just feel like that's the longer way. Because wouldn't you want to rather go like 80? Like, remember when we went to Syracuse?
Yes.
If you go that way towards the Rite Aid.
Oh, yeah. Stay away from the guy at the pumping. Anyway, here we are. We're talking Buffalo Bills football. I know personally you are very excited for this one.
Yeah.
New era in Buffalo. They're going to have a new field. I saw they were cutting up the old field and selling.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you ever bought anything like that? Like when Giant Stadium, the original Giant Stadium was going down. Did you buy anything? You have seats, right?
Yeah, I have the 2 seats.
And I have the seats from Veterans Stadium. But did you ever go and buy like the turf or anything like that?
No, but I will say it's actually still for sale. There is, and Mike, you might remember from the times I took you to Giant Stadium, the huge sign for the bathroom that said "Gentlemen" that was like lit up, and it's like 6 feet long.
Yes,
you could get that for that is available for $600, and then there's one that says Upper Deck, this like pointing, for like $700. The thing is, it's like over 6 feet long. I don't know what I would do with it.
Yeah, that's pretty big. I've been trying to find a Veterans Stadium sign. I can't find one. I mean, I could probably look a little bit harder, but I've been looking for one.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
So the Bills, they tore up the turf. That's where
they tore up the turf. There's some things going on. I've been reading about the Bills and the stadium, the naming rights, and it's reverting back. They want to move out of there, and then I don't get involved in the politics of it all, but I actually think that's one of the cooler NFL stadiums. It's old. It's old, probably one of the oldest outside of I would think Lambeau.
After Lambeau, I think it is the oldest.
But it has an interesting old school feel to it. I feel like every time I watch a game there, it's always overcast.
It's not the best weather up there, so.
But I enjoy it. I know you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Let's get in. Let's talk Buffalo Bills. 2019 record 10-6, second place in the East, and they were the wild card. I thought they had a really good year a year ago. I was impressed with them. I like their coach. I'm a big McDermott fan.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this. Did they make themselves better? Did they make themselves worse? And some of the COVID opt-outs.
Yeah, I think all in all, they made themselves better. I think they added some key depth along the defensive line. Players that I actually thought were better than, say, I liked Mario Addison, Vernon Butler, Quentin Jefferson more than I liked Shaq Lawson and Jordan Phillips. You could see on the departure side. They brought in also a bunch of tough guys. AJ Klein, Tyler Matakevich. I think may not necessarily start, but add depth and add quality depth, and also guys that are really good on special teams. And you know what? When you're a playoff team, a way to really make yourself better is just to really shore up the special teams. So, Josh Norman they brought in. I know he's hurt right now, so there's some issues there regarding how banged up he is. But the thing is, he succeeded. He had his best year ever when Sean McDermott was the defensive coordinator for the Panthers. So, assuming he still has something left in the tank and assuming his injury is not season ending, I would expect him to sort of bounce back after several subpar years with the Redskins where he wasn't being necessarily used correctly.
And do you think, because he had the the reputation of being a little bit of a malcontent.
Yeah.
Washington. Was that because of just the situation? It's Washington. We've drilled that home in the regular goal line stand that up until now with Ron Rivera. And by the way, we know we're not talking Washington football here, but hey, Ron Rivera, get better. The news of him being diagnosed with cancer, that sucks. We don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Is it a situation now where maybe he's in a less toxic environment? It's not. I've never heard a story about Buffalo being a toxic environment. It's that Andy Reid tree. They're probably not going to be. I would think that'd be good for him.
I think so, and I think that's a tight locker room. Although there were issues with Josh Norman even with the Panthers. I mean, remember that game with him and Odell Beckham? And that was when he was with the Panthers. So, but I think in general he's going to be, I think he's going to be happier because he's going to be used to the best of his abilities, and it's just a tighter knit locker room. I mean that Redskin locker room really just has not had leadership, and we'll get into that when we get to the Redskins. So, and obviously. So getting back to these acquisitions, the star prize of the acquisitions, though it obviously cost them a first rounder, was Stefon Diggs, who I think is, one of the top receivers in the league, one of the best route runners. I think probably he and Keenan Allen would probably take the cake on that prize, and it really gives them a legitimate weapon. You go to the departures, Frank Gore, who's I believe 128 years old. Has finally left the team, although he joined he's on the Jets now. And then Kurt Coleman, former Eagle, still in the league, but
somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Lorenzo Alexander is a good player, but again, I think all in all, they made themselves better in terms of the COVID opt-outs. EJ Gaines is a good cornerback, and then they had brought in Star Latulele, I believe that was last year, and that definitely hurts because. They wanted to pair him up with Ed Oliver, and so he was going to be more of the nose tackle, eat up the blocks kind of guy, while Ed Oliver is going to be the penetrating three technique. So that hurts. But you have Vernon Butler, who they also brought in from Carolina. So I think it'll help offset that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one because that's a guy that you were definitely expecting to provide to be a weapon, and now it's gone.
Yeah, he's a physical guy. He's a tone setter. I mean, it's not going to show up in the stats, but he's a guy you want on your team in the trenches. So
yeah,
they'll miss him.
Let's talk about guys in the trenches, and let's talk their draft. I was a big fan of their first pick, the second round pick, AJ Epinesa, who watching him play in college, but there's a lot of questions on how he's going to translate to the pro game. Well, what's your thought on him? You like that pick? I like that pick there.
Yeah, as a second round pick in particular, I think it makes a lot of sense. I agree. He's a good football player. The thing is, he's a little limited physically or athletically, excuse me. And so the question is, he's also, so I believe he was like 6'5", 280, 6'4", 280. So the question is, does he bulk up to become a defensive tackle?
Right.
He's a little bit of a tweener, but you know what? He's a good football player. And I'll take a good football player like that in the second round. I think he's worth it. He had a lot of production in Iowa. So I liked it. The third round pick's interesting. People are a lot higher on Zach Moss than I was. I thought he had showed some injury concerns. I thought he was a little slow. He's a physical runner, and I think he pairs well with their current starter, Devin Singletary, who was a rookie last year. But again, I didn't love his game. That was kind of where I knew that's where he was going to be drafted. I just was never in love with his game. Gabriel Davis from Central Florida, another downfield threat, which I think was a good fit, but also a little taller because the knock on the Bills wide receivers up until Stefon Diggs got there, and not that he's particularly tall, but they had a bunch of these really short guys like Cole Beasley, John Brown, just a ton of short guys. So this gives them a little bit more length. Jake Fromm, I'm also just not a fan of. I'm not a believer.
Well, let's talk about him for a second. So
Yeah.
here's this idiot
Yeah.
that has the years ago. I know it's a long time ago, but posted. I think it was. They found the tweets, right?
Yeah.
Elite white people, guns, blah blah blah. And he's since quote unquote walked it back. But once it's out there, dude, it's out there.
Yeah.
How if you're the Bills?
Yeah.
He's a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Unless they really believe in him that much to
You say just cut him right away.
Cut him right away. Why are you even messing around with this dude? Who cares?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think maybe you can. That's a good. Well, okay. I don't agree with what he said. Okay, I'm going to start with that. I guess some people, and I'm not saying this is me, would say, look, particularly in light of the fact that this is something he said years ago, maybe even when he was still a teenager. Do you cut him based upon that? Again, what he said was disgusting, despicable. I don't know. And honestly, I didn't like the pick. I'm just talking about him as a football player. I don't like him.
Oh, I agree with you. I don't think that
I thought he was incredibly overrated.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, he took the job from Jacob Eason when Jacob Eason had a season-ending injury, and he managed the team, right? But I never, he doesn't have a great arm. He's a game manager. I think he's a career backup at best. Honestly, I don't believe in him. So I mean, you raised an excellent point. Maybe you just cut ties with him at that point. I guess some people just are of the belief that since it wasn't something he said, within recently, that maybe you give him a chance.
Well, and we also discussed Sean McDermott and the Andy Reid Eagles tree. There's a lot of old Eagles personnel that are there in the office. So it would be very much an Andy Reid kind of thing to welcome a guy a la Mike Vick who's had an issue in his past and quote unquote rehab them, give them another opportunity. So I guess that would make sense a little bit.
Yeah, perhaps. But again, I just evaluating him from a football perspective, didn't love him even in the 5th round. I mean, he's more to me 7th round or an undrafted free agent. So, but anyways, moving forward, they drafted a kicker. He's a decent kicker, but I don't know. Sometimes when you draft these kickers, you just don't know. So that's really all I have to say about that. I did like Isaiah Hodgins, the Oregon State wide receiver. So I thought that they got some good value at the wide receiver position for later round picks. So all in all, it's not my favorite draft, but there's some players there. I thought maybe they could get a little bit more beef along both lines, but they kind of stayed away from that, except for AJ Epinesa, obviously. So we'll see. Look, at the end of the day, I think if the top 2 picks work out in particular, it'll be okay. But I think AJ Epinesa is a good football player, and the 2nd round makes sense.
I had a whole conversation with myself on mute. It's okay, people. This is how we do these things. He's laughing. I just said to myself, I love AJ Epinesa as a football player.
We actually don't know what you said.
Yeah, that is true. I could be saying a bunch of random shit. I do. I like him as a football player. And sometimes that's all you need is a football player. Forget the stats and what the combine says. You got a guy that can go out there and he can ball. Let's get to it. 4 key questions for the Buffalo Bills in 2020. First one, you're a Bills fan. So, Brett, why the
Bills? I don't know where you got this impression that I love the Bills so much.
When we started this here program, the Goal Line Stand, which you find at DL Stand Show up in the corner there, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you just started gushing over the Buffalo Bills out of nowhere.
Well, I will say what I do like about them, I kind of view them as like a real physical blue collar team. I mean, the fans are kind of nuts.
I want to go there just to hang out with the fans.
See, and they're like right up your alley because so for those of you who don't know, we also have a combat sports show where we cover mixed martial arts, wrestling, and boxing. And it is very much like the fans, they are very much like ECW fans.
Yeah, I
They like
see
to go through tables and
yeah. Bill's
yeah,
Mafia. I want someone to throw me through a flaming table. I've
yeah,
already established that. It's on my that's on my list of things that I want to do. I want to go to
yeah.
Lambeau. I want to get thrown through a flaming table in Buffalo.
Yeah, I rest in peace to their super fan Pancho Villa, who unfortunately passed away. I believe it was this off season, or
Oh,
it may have been the off season before. The
I didn't
one
know.
who dressed like a luchador.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
he
did not
passed
hear that.
away.
That's a shame.
Yeah, so rest in peace. I don't know his real name, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind being referred to by his super fan name. Nevertheless, so and it's a long suffering fan base, and heck, I don't know. I guess I feel badly because I enjoyed a Super Bowl where they lost by like 2 feet.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
And Norwood, and I'll tell you what, Norwood, it's still. Oh, I shouldn't even mention it. People are going to stop watching now. It still works though. It is a good.
yeah, I was gonna say that I use that and it works. So yeah, Bills fans. Yeah, I hate to tell you that during games when I want a kicker to miss, I just start yelling Norwood. And what's funny is when I'm at Giant games, when it's people who are not the regulars, they start laughing because they understand the joke. But again, yeah, I like them and I like buffalo wings. So there you go.
I like Buffalo wings too. Let's get into it. How much better will their offenses be this year, especially now that they have Stefon Diggs?
So I think honestly, just two things. Not the offensive line is essentially untouched, right? So that's one thing that I think is a positive. Second, I think Josh Allen is going to continue to improve. He may not necessarily be a top 5 quarterback, but he's going to play better than he did even last year. Then when you have Stefon Diggs, it opens it up. And I also really like their tight end, Dawson Knox. So I think it's going to be a good offense.
You mentioned you like Stefon Diggs. Let's get your thoughts here on that trade.
Yeah.
I'm a fan as well. I think he yaps a little bit too much, but he's got his comeuppance back in the day when he came into Philadelphia as a member of the Vikings and got smoked in a National Football Conference championship game.
Yeah.
What's your take on him in Buffalo?
So we discussed at length how this past draft's wide receiver class was historically deep. But in the end of the day, they're all unproven commodities. Stefon Diggs is a proven commodity. And if you told me in the first round of this year's draft, you're going to take a guy that you're going to actually have Stefon Diggs, that's great. So to me, I'm okay with it.
I agree with you. You're going to give up a first round pick for that guy, a later first round pick at that. So be it. That's the perfect kind of move. That's the move that fan bases need to realize makes sense.
Yeah.
Not like every time a guy is out there, like us Eagles fans say, go get him, trade the first round pick.
Yeah, and also they didn't give up. They didn't, mortgage the future with additional picks. So
this defensive line, can it be a strong unit?
I think so. It's Jerry Hughes is getting a little older. Trent Murphy, he's sort of sort of a middling defensive end. But I really think this is all about Ed Oliver, who was one of the talented defensive tackles. Was a first round draft pick last year. This is all about his development. And he's kind of was viewed as the baby Aaron Donald, right? And if he can even come close to what Aaron Donald is, then you have a good defensive line because that's how good Aaron Donald is. He makes his defensive line good simply because he's there. Again, Star Lotulelei opting out hurts a little bit, but bringing in Vernon Butler, another former late first round pick, who's got some talent. I think it's still a decent defensive line. You're going to have some backups there like AJ Epinesa. You can bring them along slowly. They brought in Quentin Jefferson, Mario Addison. So I think there's some depth too, which is always important because these guys get tired. So you need to, no matter what, when you're evaluating a D line, you got to see how much depth there is because you can't just rely on the starters.
Sticking on the defense, who is the player that can make this defense go? Who's their go-to guy?
I think it's Tremaine Edmonds, who was another former first-round pick, I think from two or 3 years ago from Virginia Tech. He's really starting to come into his own, a middle linebacker, and just it's a towering presence. I mean, he's like 6'4.5", 6'5", 240, but great athletes, sideline to sideline. And so I really think he makes the team go. Tre'Davious White, their cornerback, might be he's like a top 3 corner. But to me, Tremaine Edmonds sort of is the tone setter. And he's great both in terms of run and pass defense. So to me, that's why I go with Edmonds.
That's going to wrap up our 32 for 32 preview of the Buffalo Bills. We will get to a prediction further on down the road here. When we finish up our 32 for 32 series, we are going to have a big NFL prediction show, assuming that we still have a season at that point. And all things look good at this point. But if you are enjoying this, hit the subscribe button, throw us a thumbs up, give us a little share, make a comment, and we will see you tomorrow when we talk New England Patriots. And a little bit of a thing here, a little bit of a tease. I had to create a third screen for the Patriots because they had so many goddamn opt-outs, and we will get to that. I'm Mike. That's Brett. Stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.